The stars looked different from the command deck of the Indomitable. Admiral Jiho stood with his hands behind his back, watching the massive station grow larger on the viewing screen. Apex Prime was the biggest structure he had ever seen. It looked like a silver wheel spinning slowly in the darkness of space, with lights blinking across its surface like tiny stars. "Admiral, we're receiving another message from the escort fleet," said the communications officer. Her voice was calm, but Jiho could hear the tension underneath. "Let me hear it," Jiho said. A voice filled the bridge, speaking in translated galactic standard. "Human vessels, you will reduce speed and submit to Formation Pattern 7. You will power down all weapon systems. You will allow inspection teams aboard each ship. These are not requests. This is Council law." Jiho smiled, though there was no humor in it. The Council had sent 200 warships to escort 12 human ships. They called it a welcoming committee. Jiho called it what it really was, a show of force. "Send our response," Jiho said. "We acknowledge your message. We will proceed to Apex Prime at our current speed. Our weapons are already powered down. We decline inspection. We came to talk, not to surrender." The communications officer hesitated for just a moment, then sent the message. Jiho knew what would happen next. He had been preparing for this moment since Earth had received the Council's invitation 3 months ago. On the tactical display, the Council escort fleet began to move. Their ships formed a tighter box around the human vessels, trying to force them into compliance. The alien warships were large and intimidating, covered in weapons and armor that had been tested in 1,000 battles across the galaxy. "Captain Wu Jin," Jiho said, speaking into the fleet-wide channel, "execute Pattern Delta." "Understood, Admiral," came Wu Jin's voice from the Indomitable's command center. The 12 human ships moved as one. They didn't slow down. They didn't power up weapons. They simply continued forward, cutting through the Council formation like it wasn't even there. The alien ships scrambled to adjust, clearly not expecting such boldness from a species they considered primitive. Commander Yuna entered the bridge, carrying a data tablet. She was humanity's chief diplomat, but she had spent 10 years in the Navy before switching to the diplomatic corps. She understood that sometimes the best negotiations started with not backing down. "The Council is demanding we stop immediately," Yuna said. "They're threatening to disable our ships if we don't comply." "Let them try," Jiho said quietly. The Supreme Arbiter's face appeared on the main screen. It was a being of pure crystal, ancient and massive, its form shifting with different colors as it spoke. "Human vessels, this is your final warning. Submit to Council protocols or face the consequences." Yuna stepped forward, smoothing down her uniform. "This is Commander Yuna of the United Earth Diplomatic Mission. We received your invitation to join the Galactic Council. We accepted. We came here in good faith, but we will not be treated like criminals or children. We are here to negotiate as equals, or we are not here to negotiate at all." The Supreme Arbiter's colors shifted to an angry red. "You speak of equality, but you have not earned it. You are newcomers to the galaxy. You must prove yourselves worthy before you can stand beside the great civilizations of the Council." "We are already worthy," Yuna said simply. "The question is whether you are willing to recognize that fact." The tactical display showed Council ships moving into attack positions. Warning alarms began to sound across the human fleet. Jiho watched the display calmly. He had expected this. The Council operated on power and submission. They expected humans to panic, to back down, to beg for mercy. They were about to learn something about humanity. "Captain Wu Jin," Jiho said, "activate the gravity anchors." "Activating now." "Admiral." Every human ship activated a device that the Council had never seen before. Gravity anchors were humanity's secret weapon, developed in the deep research stations beyond Neptune. They created localized gravity fields so powerful that they could hold objects in place, preventing any movement through normal space. The effect was immediate. Every ship in the sector, council and human alike, froze in place. The alien vessels tried to move, tried to activate their engines, but nothing happened. They were locked in position by invisible hands of gravity. The Supreme Arbiter's colors flashed in confusion and rage. "What have you done? This is an act of war!" "This is a demonstration," Yuna said calmly. "We came here to talk. We told you our weapons were powered down. And they are. But we are not defenseless. We are not weak. And we will not be bullied." Jiho watched the display. The Council fleet was completely immobilized. Not a single ship could move even a centimeter. The human vessels were equally frozen, but that was by choice. They could deactivate the anchors at any moment. "You have 60 seconds to decide," Yuna continued. "We can release these anchors and proceed to Apex Prime as guests and equals. Or we can sit here in space until you understand that humanity does not kneel. The choice is yours, Supreme Arbiter." The silence on the channel was absolute. Jiho counted the seconds in his head. He knew this was a gamble. If the Council refused, if they chose to make this a fight, things would get very complicated very quickly. But he also knew that bullies only respected strength, and humanity needed to show strength right from the start. At 53 seconds, the Supreme Arbiter spoke. Its colors had shifted to a neutral blue. "Release our vessels. You will be permitted to dock at Apex Prime. But this incident will not be forgotten." "We don't expect it to be," Yuna said. "We'll see you at the negotiating table." Wu Jin deactivated the gravity anchors. The Council fleet immediately pulled back, giving the human ships clear passage to the station. Jiho allowed himself a small smile. They had won the first round, but he knew the real challenge was just beginning. As the Indomitable glided toward Apex Prime, Jiho looked at the massive station and thought about Earth, so far away. Billions of people were counting on them to bring humanity into the galactic community. He would not let them down, no matter what it took. The negotiation chamber inside Apex Prime was designed to make visitors feel small. The ceiling stretched up into darkness, and the seats for council delegates rose in tiers like an ancient amphitheater. At the bottom, in the center, was a small platform where petitioners stood to make their case. Yuna stood on that platform now, looking up at the faces of 47 different species. Some were humanoid. Others were so alien that she couldn't even tell where their eyes were. But all of them were watching her with the same expression: doubt. Behind her stood Taman, humanity's xenoanthropologist. He was young, but brilliant, with a gift for understanding alien cultures. He had spent the last 3 months studying everything humanity knew about the Galactic Council. Now he would help present Earth's case for membership. "You may begin," the Supreme Arbiter said from its high seat. The crystal being's voice echoed through the chamber. Yuna activated the holographic display. Images of Earth appeared above the platform, rotating slowly. Blue oceans, green continents, white clouds. It looked peaceful from space, beautiful even. "This is Earth," Yuna said. "Our home. It is a Class 9 death world." A ripple went through the council. Class 9 death worlds were rare. They were planets where life was so competitive, so aggressive, that most species avoided them entirely. Taman stepped forward, taking over the presentation. "On Earth, 96% of all species that have ever existed are now extinct, not because of cosmic events, but because of competition. Everything on our planet evolved to survive by being stronger, faster, or smarter than everything else. Humans are the result of 4 billion years of that pressure," a reptilian delegate hissed from its seat. "We have seen aggressive species before, human. You are not special. Your world may be harsh, but that does not grant you the right to join the council as equals." "We are not asking for special treatment," Yuna said calmly. "We are asking to be judged fairly. We have developed faster than light travel. We have created stable governments across an entire planet. We have arts, sciences, and philosophies that span thousands of years. What more do you require? A being that looked like a floating collection of lights spoke next. Its voice was like wind chimes. The Council requires discipline, unity, order. Your species is fractured. You fight among yourselves. Your planet has hundreds of different nations, all competing for resources. That's true, Taman said. But that competition has made us stronger. We don't have a hive mind that forces unity. We don't have a single government that controls all thought. We have diversity. We have different ideas, different approaches, different solutions, and when we finally do unite behind a common goal, nothing can stop us. The session continued for hours. Council delegates asked questions about human history, human technology, human culture. Some questions were genuine. Others were clearly designed to make humans look primitive or barbaric. During a recess, Nari approached Yuna with a datapad. Nari was humanity's intelligence officer, a quiet woman who noticed everything. Commander, you need to see this. Yuna took the pad and read quickly. Her expression hardened. Are you certain? I've verified it 3 times, Nari said. The Council operates on a hierarchy system. Only 7 species actually make decisions. The other 40 are observers at best, vassals at worst. They're ranked by something called the Conquest Index, which measures how many worlds they've conquered or dominated. Yuna looked up at the tiered seating, seeing the council chamber in a new light. The 7 highest seats belonged to the most powerful species. Everyone else sat lower, their opinions clearly worth less. Across the chamber, Hyun was talking with a small, fragile-looking alien. Hyun was one of humanity's engineers, more comfortable with machines than diplomacy. But he had a talent for making friends. The alien he was speaking with looked like a floating jellyfish made of light, with long tentacles that gestured as it spoke. When the recess ended, Hyun pulled Yuna aside. Commander, I just talked with one of the Lumi delegates. They're a peaceful species. Been part of the Council for 3,000 years. They told me something disturbing. Species are ranked by how many worlds they've conquered. If you haven't dominated at least 5 other civilizations, you can't vote on major decisions. Yuna felt something cold settle in her stomach. So the Council isn't a democracy. It's a club for conquerors. Exactly, Hyun said. And they're not going to accept us as equals unless we prove we can dominate others. Yuna looked at Taman and Nari. We need to talk to Admiral Jiho now. The communication was encrypted and routed through 3 different relay points. Jiho listened to their report without interruption, his face grave on the video screen. So we have a choice, Jiho said finally. We can play by their rules and become conquerors ourselves, or we can reject their system entirely. There might be a third option, Yuna said. We change the system from within, but that means staying and fighting for it. Before Jiho could respond, alarms blared throughout the human section of Apex Prime. Nari's fingers flew across her console. We have a situation. 3 Council enforcers are attempting to board the medical ship Mercy. What's their justification? Jiho demanded. They claim they need to inspect our biological systems to ensure we're not carrying diseases. Jiho's jaw tightened. Get me Captain Day. Day's face appeared on screen seconds later. She was a small woman with steel in her eyes, and she had commanded the Mercy through 3 separate plague zones during the Titan colony crisis. Admiral, I have 3 armed aliens trying to cut through my airlock. Are your people safe? Locked down in the medical bay, but sir, they're using plasma torches on the hull. Let them try, Jiho said. How long until they breach? Day checked her readings and smiled. At their current rate, about 6 hours. Our hull alloy is denser than anything in their database. Good. Don't let them aboard under any circumstances. That's an order. Understood, Admiral. Yuna turned to Taman. Get back to the council chamber. Tell them we demand an explanation for this harassment. The confrontation in the council chamber was brief, but intense. The Supreme Arbiter claimed the inspection was standard procedure. Yuna pointed out that no other species had been subjected to forced boarding during their admission process. Other species, the Arbiter said coldly, understood their place. You have been defiant since your arrival. Perhaps we were wrong to invite you at all. Perhaps you were wrong to think we would behave like all the others, Yuna replied. We came here hoping to find a community of equals. Instead, we found a hierarchy maintained by force. That ends now. Either you treat us with respect or we leave, and you lose the chance to have humanity as an ally instead of an unknown threat beyond your borders. The chamber fell silent. Nari whispered to Yuna. The enforcers just retreated from the Mercy. Someone gave the order to stand down. Yuna kept her expression neutral, but inside she felt a small surge of triumph. They had stood their ground again, but she knew this was far from over. The council was testing them, pushing to see where humanity's limits were. As the session ended and the human delegation returned to their ships, Taemin walked beside Yuna. Commander, I've been thinking. The council expects us to fail. They've designed their system to keep newcomers down. But what if we use that against them? What do you mean? What if we help the other species who've been kept down? The ones who have been waiting thousands of years for a chance to be heard? Yuna looked at him thoughtfully. That's dangerous. It could make enemies of the powerful species. We're already their enemies, Taemin said. We just haven't admitted it yet. The trial chamber was different from the main council hall. It was smaller, darker, and filled with recording equipment. Every species that wanted to join the council had to pass the trials of capability. It was tradition, the Supreme Arbiter had explained. It was necessary to prove worthiness. Minho stood in the center of the chamber, wearing standard human combat armor. He was humanity's tactical officer, a man who had spent 15 years studying military history from every culture on Earth. He was also the best strategic mind in the fleet, which was why he had volunteered for this trial. The simulation will test your combat capabilities, a council proctor explained. The proctor was a tall, insectoid being with compound eyes. You will face scenarios designed by our greatest military minds. Most species take between 3 and 5 hours to complete the trial. The record is 3 hours and 12 minutes, held by the Vrexian Empire. Minho nodded, checking his weapons. He carried a standard assault rifle, a sidearm, and a combat knife. No special equipment, no enhancements, just a human soldier and his training. In the observation room, Yuna, Jiho, and the other human delegates watched on monitors. Around them, council members filled the seats, clearly expecting to see humanity humbled. The trial begins now, the proctor announced. The simulation loaded around Minho. He found himself in an alien city under siege. Enemy forces were everywhere, using advanced weapons and superior numbers. The objective was simple: survive and complete the mission parameters. Minho didn't charge in like the council expected. Instead, he found cover and observed. He watched the enemy patterns, noting how they moved, how they communicated, where they were vulnerable. The simulation was designed for species with natural armor or telepathy or energy powers. Humans had none of those things. But humans had something else. They had creativity. Minho started by setting traps. He used the environment, turning the alien city into a weapon. He collapsed buildings on enemy positions. He redirected energy conduits to create barriers. He even hacked into the simulation's communication network and sent false orders to enemy units, making them fight each other. In the observation room, several council members shifted uncomfortably. This is not how the trial is meant to be completed, one muttered. He's not breaking any rules, Nari pointed out, checking the trial regulations on her datapad. Everything he's doing is within the allowed parameters. The simulation grew more difficult. The enemy adapted to Minho's tactics. But every time they adapted, Minho changed his approach. He was unpredictable, switching between aggression and stealth, between direct combat and psychological warfare. At one point, he captured an enemy officer in the simulation and convinced the digital intelligence that continuing the fight was pointless. The officer surrendered and ordered its troops to stand down. The council proctors had to verify that this was, technically, a valid victory condition. 47 minutes after the trial began, Minho completed all mission parameters. He emerged from the simulation chamber, removed his helmet, and looked up at the observation room. Is there a second trial? Or was that it? The Supreme Arbiter's colors shifted through several spectrums before settling on an irritated yellow. You did not complete the trial with honor. You used deception and trickery. I used tactics, Minho said calmly. War isn't about honor, it's about winning, and I won. The council members argued among themselves. Some wanted to invalidate Minho's performance. Others, grudgingly, admitted that he had followed all the rules. The trial results stood. Humanity had shattered the council's record by more than 2 hours, but the Supreme Arbiter was not finished. Very well, you have passed the combat trial. Now you will demonstrate your technological capabilities. We will examine your vessels and your science. Jisoo stepped forward. She was humanity's chief scientist. A woman who had revolutionized Earth's understanding of physics before she was 30. We're happy to share some of our technology, but we won't submit to a complete examination of our ships. Then you refuse the trial? We'll give you a demonstration instead, Jisoo said. She activated a holographic projector, and a complex mathematical model appeared in the air. This is our solution to faster-than-light travel. The council's scientists leaned forward, studying the equations. One of them, a being made of swirling gas, spoke up. This appears to be an Alcubierre drive. We are familiar with the concept. It requires exotic matter and massive amounts of dark energy, impractical for regular use. That's the old version, Jisoo said, smiling. We solved the exotic matter problem. Our drives create stable warp bubbles using controlled quantum fluctuations. No dark energy required. Our ships can make the journey from Earth to this station in 3 weeks. According to our intelligence, your fastest ships take 8 weeks to cover the same distance. The chamber fell silent. Several council scientists were frantically checking their data pads, running calculations, trying to find a flaw in humanity's math. There was no flaw. Sora, humanity's cultural attaché, stood near the back of the observation room. She was an artist before she joined the diplomatic service, someone who understood emotion and perception. She watched the council members carefully, reading their body language and reactions. What she saw worried her. Commander Yuna, Sora said quietly. They're not impressed. They're scared. Scared? Yuna asked. Why would they be scared of faster ships? Because it means we're advancing too quickly. Look at how they're reacting. The dominant species are grouping together, whispering. The lesser species look hopeful, like we've given them something. But the powerful ones, they see us as a threat. Yuna realized Sora was right. The council didn't reward innovation. They feared it. Any species that advanced too quickly might upset the careful balance of power they had maintained for thousands of years. The technology demonstration ended with polite applause, but the atmosphere had changed. The council members filed out of the chamber, many of them avoiding eye contact with the human delegation. That night, as Yuna was reviewing the day's events in her quarters, the lights went out. Emergency systems kicked in a second later, but that single second was enough. An assassin moved through the darkness, a blade aimed at Yuna's heart. The blade never reached her. Humanity's personal defense systems activated automatically. A small drone, no bigger than a fist, intercepted the attacker. There was a flash of light and a brief scream, then silence. When the lights came back on, Yuna found herself staring at a dead alien on her floor. The creature was a member of one of the oldest council species, a civilization that had held power for 10,000 years. Security footage was reviewed immediately. The evidence was clear. The assassin had been hired, and the payment had come from a council account. Jiho called an emergency meeting of all human personnel. "We have confirmation," he said, his voice hard. "The council just tried to kill our chief diplomat. This is no longer about proving ourselves. This is about survival." Wu Jin, captain of the Indomitable, spoke up. "Admiral, we should leave. Return to Earth and come back with the full fleet." "No," Yuna said firmly. Everyone turned to look at her. "If we leave now, they'll see it as weakness, and they'll have time to prepare. We stay. We finish this." "Commander, they tried to kill you," Jiho pointed out. "Which means we're winning," Yuna replied. "They wouldn't bother killing someone they thought was irrelevant. They see us as a real threat now. We use that." Taemin nodded slowly. "She's right. We're not the only ones who are threatened by the Council's power structure. What if we reached out to the other species? The ones who have been suppressed for centuries? That could start a war," Jiho said. "There's already a war," Nari said quietly. "It's been going on for thousands of years. The Council just doesn't call it that. They call it stability and order, but it's really just domination with better marketing." Jiho was silent for a long moment. Then he straightened his shoulders. "All right. We do this carefully. We gather evidence. We find allies. And when we're ready, we show the entire galaxy what the Council really is." "And if they try to stop us?" Wu Jin asked. Jiho's expression was grim. "Then they'll learn what happens when you threaten humanity. We didn't claw our way to the top of Earth's food chain by being easy to kill." Taemin and Nari worked through the night in a secure room aboard the Indomitable. Around them, holographic displays showed hundreds of documents, all stolen from Council databases by humanity's electronic warfare specialists. The information painted a disturbing picture of galactic civilization. "Look at this," Nari said, highlighting a section of text. 200 years ago, a species called the Cathani developed quantum computing. Within a decade, they were advancing faster than any civilization in Council history. "What happened to them?" Taemin asked, though he suspected he knew the answer. "Pirates destroyed their home world. At least that's what the official report says. But look at the timing. The pirate attack happened exactly 1 week after the Cathani refused to share their quantum technology with the Council's dominant species." Taemin pulled up another file. "Here's a similar case. The Yuvani created a biological technology that could terraform dead worlds in months instead of centuries. They were declared a biological hazard and quarantined. Their entire species has been confined to a single planet for 300 years. "It's a pattern," Nari said grimly. "Every species that shows exceptional innovation either becomes a vassal, sharing their technology under cooperation agreements, or they're eliminated. The Council doesn't foster advancement. It suppresses it." They compiled the evidence carefully, organizing it into a presentation that even the most skeptical observer couldn't deny. When the sun rose over Apex Prime's simulated day cycle, they had everything they needed. Yuna called for an emergency council session. The Supreme Arbiter tried to delay it, but Yuna invoked an ancient council law that allowed any member to demand a hearing on matters of existential importance. The council chamber filled slowly. Many delegates looked annoyed at being summoned on short notice. Others looked curious. The Supreme Arbiter glowed an angry red, its crystalline form crackling with barely contained energy. "This had better be important, Commander Yuna," the Arbiter said. "You are abusing Council procedures." "I'm using them exactly as they were written," Yuna replied. She activated the holographic display. "I'm here to present evidence of crimes against galactic civilization." The evidence unfolded before the assembled council, graphs showing the correlation between innovation and species destruction. Intercepted communications between council leaders discussing how to handle problematic civilizations. Financial records showing payments to pirate groups and saboteurs. Testimony from suppressed species about technologies they had been forbidden to develop. The chamber erupted in chaos. Some delegates shouted in outrage. Others tried to leave, but the chamber doors had been locked by human security protocols. The Supreme Arbiter's voice boomed through the noise. "This is outrageous! You break into our systems, steal classified information, and then make wild accusations?" "Are the accusations wild?" Taman asked calmly. "Or are they accurate? Because we can verify every single piece of evidence we've presented. Can you deny any of it?" The Arbiter didn't answer directly. Instead, it addressed the Council. "These humans are dangerous. They refuse to follow our rules. They question our authority. They threaten the stability we have maintained for 10,000 years. I move that they be expelled from Apex Prime and forbidden from ever returning." "Stability?" Yuna's voice cut through the chamber like a knife. "You call this stability? You've created a system where advancement is punished, where innovation is a death sentence. You've turned the galaxy into a stagnant pond, afraid of any ripple that might disturb your power." A vote was called. Humanity's expulsion required a 2/3 majority. The 7 dominant species all voted yes immediately. But then something unexpected happened. Several of the vassal species voted no, then several more. The final count was 41 votes to expel, 6 votes against, not enough for 2/3. The Supreme Arbiter was stunned. "This is impossible. You cannot defy the will of the Council leadership." "You mean we cannot defy the will of the 7 species who actually rule here?" said a delegate from the Lumi, the jellyfish-like species Hyun had befriended. "But perhaps it is time for that to change." The Supreme Arbiter's colors shifted to a deep, threatening purple. "You are making a grave mistake. All of you." "The only mistake was trusting you for so long," another delegate said. This one was from a species that looked like walking plants. "We have watched you suppress our development for centuries. We have stayed silent because we were afraid. But these humans, they are not afraid. And maybe we do not have to be afraid either." "Enough," the Supreme Arbiter declared. "This council session is over. Human delegation. You have 72 hours to depart Apex Prime. If you remain after that time, you will be removed by force." Jiho received the ultimatum aboard the Indomitable. Around him, his senior officers gathered, their faces grim. "They're positioning the Armada," Wu Jin reported. 800 ships now. They've called in reinforcements from nearby sectors. 800 versus 12, Minho said. "Those are not good odds." "They're not meant to be," Jiho said. "This is about making an example. They want to show the galaxy what happens when you defy the Council." Day, captain of the Mercy, spoke up. "Admiral, our ships are strong, but we're not invincible. If they all attack at once." "I know," Jiho said quietly. "Which is why we're not going to fight them. Not directly anyway." He activated a secure communication channel. Over the next hour, messages went out to 24 different species. Not the dominant ones who ruled the Council, but the vassals who had been suppressed for so long. The messages were simple and contained all the evidence Taman and Nari had compiled. The messages also contained a question. "How long will you accept chains?" The responses came slowly at first. Some species were too afraid to respond. Others sent cautious replies, wanting to know more. But several, including the Lumi, responded with a simple statement. "We stand with you." Wu Jin looked at the tactical display with new worry. "Admiral, if these species declare support for us, the Council will destroy them too." "Not if we protect them," Jiho said. "Minho, how many ships can we shield if we link our defensive grids?" Minho ran the calculations. "Maybe 30 or 40 smaller vessels, but that means we can't maneuver. We'd be sitting targets." "That's exactly what we're going to be," Jiho confirmed. We're going to show the galaxy that humanity doesn't abandon its allies. As the deadline approached, the Supreme Arbiter made one final offer: surrender, accept vassalage, and live, refuse, and be destroyed as a lesson to others. Yuna didn't even consider it. Tell the Arbiter that humanity's answer is no. We will not kneel. We will not surrender. And if the Council wants to destroy us, they will have to do it in front of the entire galaxy. Nari had been working on another project during this time. With Yoon's help, they had created a broadcasting system that could reach every inhabited system in Council space, not just the official channels the Council controlled. "It's ready," Nari reported. "When you give the word, we can transmit everything. Every piece of evidence, every suppressed technology, every crime the Council has committed. The entire galaxy will know the truth." "Do it," Yuna said. "But encrypt it with a dead man's switch. If our ships are destroyed, the information releases automatically. The Council can kill us, but they can't silence us." The 72 hours ended. The Council Armada moved into attack formation, surrounding the human fleet. On Apex Prime and across 1,000 worlds, beings watched the confrontation unfold. The Supreme Arbiter's final message was broadcast across all channels. "This is what happens to those who defy the Council. Let this be a lesson that will last 10,000 years more." "Fire!" came the order. 800 ships powered their weapons. The space around Apex Prime lit up with enough firepower to glass a planet. And then the galaxy learned what humanity had built in secret. The 12 diplomatic ships weren't just diplomats. They were weapons platforms that Earth had spent 20 years designing. Ships built to survive anything the galaxy could throw at them. And survive they did. The first wave of weapons fire hit the human shields like a hammer, striking an anvil. The shields held. Energy dispersed across the defensive grid, absorbed and redirected into space. The 12 human ships glowed white-hot from the impact, but didn't break. "Shields at 70%, Wu Jin reported from the Indomitable's bridge. "Hull integrity holding." "Return fire?" Minho asked. "Negative," Jiho ordered. "We're not here to fight. We're here to make a point." The Council Armada fired again. And again. Each time, the human shields absorbed the punishment. The ships didn't move. They didn't flee. They simply stood their ground, protecting the smaller vessels of the 24 species that had declared support for humanity. On the observation channels, billions of beings across the galaxy watched in stunned silence. The mighty Council fleet, which had conquered 1,000 worlds, couldn't break through the defenses of 12 human ships. But something else was happening. Something the Supreme Arbiter hadn't anticipated. Nari activated humanity's electronic warfare systems. Across every Council communication channel, across every secure network, across every encrypted database, information began to flow, not just to military commanders or government officials, but to everyone. Every citizen of every Council species suddenly had access to the truth. The suppressed technologies, the assassinated innovators, the fabricated pirate attacks, the quarantined civilizations. 10,000 years of lies and manipulation, all exposed at once. Hyun worked alongside a Lumi engineer, using their combined expertise to override Council communication restrictions. For the first time in recorded galactic history, the vassal species could speak to each other directly without Council oversight. What they said changed everything. "This is the Yuvani delegation," came a transmission from one of the quarantined species. "We have been prisoners for 300 years because we refused to surrender our terraforming technology. We stand with humanity." "This is the Marathi fleet," another voice announced. "Our ancestors were destroyed for developing advanced medicine. Their legacy ends today. We stand with humanity." More voices joined. Species that had been silent for centuries suddenly found their courage. The vassal species, which made up 41 of the Council's 47 members, began broadcasting their support. The Supreme Arbiter watched its empire crumble in real time. "Silence them," it commanded. "Cut their communications. Destroy their transmitters." But there was nothing to cut. Humanity's systems had infiltrated every network. The Lumi and other species had already replicated the technology. The Council could no longer control the flow of information. In desperation, the Arbiter gave the order humanity had been waiting for. "All ships, target the human fleet, full weapons, destroy them completely." The Armada prepared for a final overwhelming strike. 800 ships all firing at once. Even human shields couldn't withstand that much concentrated firepower. But Minho had been waiting for this moment. "Execute maneuver endurance," Jiho commanded. Every human ship activated its faster-than-light engines at the same moment. Not to escape, but to execute synchronized micro-jumps, a technique that required split-second precision and calculations so complex that only human computers could manage them. In the space of a heartbeat, 12 human ships disappeared from their positions and reappeared behind the Council fleet, not to attack, to shield. The 24 vassal species ships that had declared support for humanity were suddenly protected by human vessels positioned between them and the Council Armada. Any shot the Council fired at their rebellious members would have to go through humanity first. Day's voice came over the fleet channel, calm and steady. "We're in position. All vassal ships are covered." The Supreme Arbiter's colors flashed through the entire spectrum, unable to settle on any single emotion. Rage, fear, disbelief. "You protect them? They are nothing to you. Why would you sacrifice yourselves for species you barely know?" Yuna's response was broadcast on every channel in the galaxy. "Because that's what equals do. We don't abandon our allies. We don't sacrifice the weak to protect the powerful. And we don't accept a system where advancement is punished and innovation is a crime." She paused, then continued. "The Council has a choice now. You can fire on us, knowing that every shot will be witnessed by the entire galaxy, knowing that you'll be showing everyone what you really are, tyrants willing to destroy anyone who threatens your power. Or you can stand down and face the truth. Your empire is over." For a long moment, nobody moved. 800 Council ships faced 12 human vessels, with 24 smaller ships sheltered behind them. The entire galaxy held its breath. Then, one by one, ships began to withdraw. Not the vessels of the 7 dominant species, but ships from the vassal species. Captains who had spent their entire lives following Council orders suddenly found the courage to refuse. Within an hour, more than 300 ships had pulled back from the battle formation. Their crews broadcast messages of support for reform, for change, for a new galactic order. The Supreme Arbiter tried to give orders, but nobody was listening anymore. The commanders of the dominant species vessels looked at their tactical displays and saw the reality of their situation. They could still win a military engagement, but they had already lost the political war. "This isn't over," the Arbiter declared. "The Council will not simply dissolve because a few rebels demand it." "You're right," Yuna said. "It's not over. But it's time for something new. I call for a vote, a real vote, where every species has an equal voice. The question is simple. Should the Council continue in its current form, or should we create a new organization based on equality and cooperation?" The Arbiter tried to block the vote, but it couldn't. The ancient laws it had used to maintain power for thousands of years were now being used against it. The vote was called. Every species cast their ballot. The 7 dominant species voted to maintain the old order. 41 species voted for change. The Galactic Council, as it had existed for 10,000 years, was dissolved. The transition took 3 weeks. The dominant species retreated to their core territories, taking with them those vassals who chose to remain loyal. They still controlled vast regions of space and enormous resources, but their grip on galactic civilization was broken. The remaining species formed a new organization, the Galactic Assembly. Its charter was simple. Every species had one vote. No species could be punished for technological advancement. Information would be shared freely, not hoarded by the powerful. And most importantly, no species would be conquered or suppressed again. Humanity didn't lead the new assembly. Una refused the position when it was offered. "We're newcomers here," she said. "We have much to learn from all of you. Let's build this together, as equals." The Lumi delegate was chosen as the first assembly speaker, with representatives from 12 other species forming the initial council. Humanity took a seat alongside them, neither above nor below anyone else. As the human fleet prepared to return to Earth, Jiho stood on the bridge of the Indomitable, watching Apex Prime shrink in the distance. The station would remain, but it would be shared now. A place for all species, not just the powerful ones. Sora approached him with a data pad. "Admiral, I've drafted humanity's first official message to the Assembly. Would you like to review it?" Jiho read the words slowly, then smiled. "It's perfect. Send it." The message was brief, reflecting humanity's hope for the future. "To our fellow members of the Galactic Assembly, we have much to learn from you and perhaps something to teach. Let us begin as friends, work together as equals, and build a future where every species can reach its full potential. The galaxy is large enough for all of us to thrive. Together, we can prove it." Across the galaxy, beings read those words and felt something they hadn't felt in a long time. Hope. The 7 dominant species still existed, still powerful, still watching from their territories. Perhaps one day there would be conflict again. Perhaps the struggle between the old order and the new would continue for centuries. But on this day, at this moment, something had changed. Humanity had reached the stars and found a galaxy held in chains. They could have accepted those chains. They could have walked away. Instead, they had broken them. And in doing so, they had shown every other species in the galaxy something important, that you didn't have to accept the world as it was. That courage mattered, that standing up for what was right, even when facing impossible odds, could change everything. As Earth appeared in the distance, growing larger with each passing hour, Jiho thought about all the people waiting there. Billions of humans who would soon learn that their species had not just joined galactic civilization, but had helped transform it. They hadn't conquered the galaxy. They hadn't imposed human values on alien cultures. They had simply refused to kneel, and sometimes that was enough.